Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Witty Comic Book, covering last week's comics. It's a whole thing. Anyway, we've covered last week's AXE books as well as X-Men and a few others. So let's keep moving on to this week's Avengers book, last week's Avengers book, starting with Ant-Man number 3. So, a bit of a reminder on the Ant-Man miniseries. Each issue focuses on a previous Ant-Man, so far at least. The first issue focused on Hank Pym, the original. The second issue, rather than focusing on Scott Lang, the next person to be Ant-Man chronologically, it skipped ahead to Eric O'Grady, the irredeemable Ant-Man. This issue focuses on Scott Lang. So, it opens though with, we learn that Black Ant, the evil robot clone of Eric O'Grady, has been hired by, is working for someone new, but he's tends to be working with Taskmaster. But at Avengers Mountain, Thor and Iron Man are discussing what to do with Ultron, with Hank Pym Ultron. A few years back, real time, Ultron merged with Hank Pym, and they became a kind of a cosmic level menace. I believe the Silver Surfer and Adam Warlock managed to stop him. Or they stopped him, though he was taken down eventually by Iron Man and the Avengers. But they have a casket that has been made specifically for Ultron. And they're discussing what to do with it. Thor basically says that the casket and Ultron should be melted down in the heat of a dwarven furnace. Though, and Iron Man, explains they've been over it, though. The runes on the coffin might keep Ultron sealed in, but he's still tougher than the coffin. So the coffin will melt before Ultron does. Meaning, if they were to melt it down toss him into a dwarven furnace, he'd get loose. So they have a plan. A grain of sand in an endless desert somewhere in the subatomic world of the microverse, where nobody's been heard of Ultron. Buried inside the grain of sand, at the size of a proton, is the casket with Ultron inside. But, of course, they'll need help with that from someone a bit of an expert on shrinking. So, Scott Lang, who's brought his daughter along to Avengers Mountain. His daughter being Cassie Lang, aka Stinger, formerly known as Stature, and Tony tries a grand reveal of Scott, saying that they need the services of one other Avenger, and then Scott and Cassie enter, and Tony simply says, "I said one other Avenger." And at first, Cassie's a little perturbed about the whole thing, but then realizes that Iron Man just called her an Avenger, though he says, in a once an Avenger sense, sure. So Scott shrinks down the casket. But a cosmic threat, and so Thor and Iron Man will have to deal with it. But while Cassie and Scott teleport to New York to go to Hank's lab. But Singer notices something that happens with the ants, though it's done. The Ant-Man of the future is scanning them. So back at Hank Pym's lab, currently owned by now owned by Janet Van Dyne, they're working through all the various everything they'll need to do to shrink the casket. But it turns out Ultron's not dead, and he manages to kind of sort of telepathically get in touch with Scott via bug speak. They argue a bit, and then Scott snaps out of it, only to discover that Black Ant has breached the lab and taken Cassie prisoner. Cassie manages to get out of it because with some not too subtle instruction from her father. But turns out that Black Ant had a backup plan. The Time Master's aging ray souped up with, well, Hank Pym's genius. And he uses it with a full charge on the casket. 1,000,000 years of raw time. Ultron figured even pure vibranium has to fall apart sometime. But as Black Ant tries to escape, well, kind of falls through until as he's shrunk. But he ends up being caught by some spiders. And before Scott can fix the problem, he's taken by the Ant-Man of the future. And it turns out that the great threat that the Ant-Man of the future is facing is, well, All-Father Ultron. That is where the issue ends. I am enjoying this. This is actually a fun miniseries, and I largely put that on Al Ewing's writing. But yeah, fun stuff. It's nice. It was nice to have an issue that focused on an Ant-Man that I truly like, because I like Scott Lang. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty, number 5. Where we left off, with some intelligence from the Redacted, Winter Soldier and Captain America are going after the Outer Circle, who are having a bit of a disagreement as to what they're going to do, as to their next moves. The Revolution is trying to start a revolution, while the rest of the players are kind of just like, yeah, no. But Steve, Bucky, and Redacted managed to get to the Outer Circle's base and begin their attack. But the Outer Circle kind of said, gives their whole spiel. Oh, we're so much better than you. And of course, they send their forces against Steve and Bucky. They're instructed that, and they've been told that if they drop their weapons, they'll blow up. They'll be killed. But Cap talks one of the soldiers down, and that kind of it starts everyone kind of, okay, yeah, we can actually do this. The Redacted has made it so that the remote bombs won't work. But Cap and Steve and Bucky make their way to the Revolution, who makes clear the part that he's played, the Outer Circle has played in what's become of, or in Bucky's life. But Bucky pulls a gun and is planning to shoot planning to kill the Revolution. Steve tries to talk him down. And Bucky shoots both Steve and the Revolution. It's a single shot, you know. Steve's standing in front of the Revolution. Bucky fires, and the bullet goes right through Steve and hits the Revolution. And that is where the issue ends. Well, I mean, this is definitely. I've been digging this new run. It's definitely they're good at upping the ante every issue. That's for sure. The story is also intriguing. So yeah. Moving on to our next book, we've got Genis, Vell, Captain Marvel, number 3. Where we left off, Vell had somewhat gotten involved, while Genis Vell is dealing with a smattering of issues. But Philo goes to collect the Negabands from Rick Jones, and as he opts to hand them off to her, well, he once again becomes intangible, and Genis is having trouble controlling his powers. Philo puts the bands back on Rick, and suddenly, Genis is back under control. He goes to check on Jacinda, the Skrull who's helping him. Genis, that is, while Rick and Philo discuss what they're going to do, with Rick kind of saying, you know, no, I'm done dealing with this crap. And he walks away, he realizes he's an idiot, and just as he's about to tell Philo to change his mind, she knocks him out. But Jacinda and Genis are taken to New Hala, where the scientists now in charge of of everything there explains that they're working on basically resurrecting the Kree race after the Nega bomb wiped out 95% of the Kree population. And it's also explained that Genis is not a clone of Genis. Not in the strictest of senses, but a recreation of the original. And Genis says that it must have come from something, and explained that he came from Marlo Chandler. Since Rick and Marlo took a vacation in the Microverse, there was some parts of the biological parts of Genis that got merged with Marlo. Rick wakes up, and it turns out that Philo's stolen a Quinjet to head into space. Once again, he has trouble with his cohesion, but Marlo wakes up. And Death shows up and transports Genis to the Microverse, and Rick as well, and the two of them discuss things, and well, since Rick is looking for Marlo, well, Genis has found her, so but Rick explains to Philo where they need to go. Genis frees Marlo. We get a bit of a flashback to Death having taken the form of Moondragon, explaining that there's one thing that Death fears, the Supreme Intelligence. And it explains that Death explains that the Supreme Intelligence fears its death, and it's been running future scenarios and seems to believe that death is inevitable. And he figures that if he can control death, it can be prevented. However, their conversation is interrupted by the appearance of Kree warrior Shatterax, who means to take death back to Hala. And that is where the issue ends. So that's definitely turning out to be an interesting series. Something I'm loving in general is this concept of modern writers taking largely discarded characters from, say, the 90s and turning them from one-note characters that, no one really cared, no one remembers because they never did anything. They never did anything canonically that was, monumental or iconic, and making them into full-fledged characters, actually giving them, breathing new life into them with new stories, including new stories that take place back during their heyday, so to speak. Shatterax is one such character. So, anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Thor, number 27. Where we left off, Thor and Hulk had quite possibly their biggest battle to date, and Thor is reflecting on this battle because at one point when he was gamma infused, he kind of destroyed the Rainbow Bridge. And he's trying to take responsibility for having done that, though Odin, who is still infused with Mjolnir, is saying, "No, it's not your fault. You were gamming out, But Loki then shows up. Apparently, he's there to check on Donald Blake, but Thor explains that what happened. That the Rainbow Bridge being created by myth and magic, and Loki being an expert on both. Loki will help rebuild the bridge. Which has Loki making an amusing point, saying that Thor needs a Bifrost, and Loki's a Bifrost giant. It's fate. How can you say no? But they survey the damage, and Loki actually thinks he can't help. With some possibility that, other magical transportation methods are available. Even Midgard's technology might serve them there, if they can bring it up to their standards. But Thor says when it comes to machines in Midgard, they have their place, and he prefers something that the Asgardians can maintain themselves. So Loki tries to make a stepping disc into limbo, or through limbo, but as he does so, a creature comes out attacking Loki, then Thor. Turns out to be Darkoth, the Death Demon. It's explained that Darkoth, a man named Desmond Pitt, him and Thor fought long ago when Darkoth was ensnared in Mephisto's machinations. It was the first time that Darkoth's soul had been manipulated. Dr. Doom had done so as well, transforming him into a demon. But it appears he's covered. He's got a symbiote, which he's trying to fight. After a quick attack on Thor, Loki, and Sif, Darkoff leaves, but some of the symbiote goop is still there, and it begins to constitute itself into Venom, who tries to say, hey, saw there was a symbiote here, and was going, okay, what the hell's up with that? But I'm here to help. Darkoff takes on the Warriors 4. And Darkoff then uses the symbiote-controlled Darkoff uses his own powers to basically create his own version of Mjolnir, and that is where the issue ends. Fun issue. I'm imagining that also gives us some previews of things to come in Venom. But I imagine that as there two writers would be credited, Al Ewing and Donny Cates. I imagine that Al Ewing likely wrote most of the Venom-related stuff. So, fun times. Moving on to our next book, we've got Damage Control number 2. Where we left off, Gus's first day did not go well. Mailroom, not his thing, and he almost got the Earth obliterated. So, another possibility. So, Consumer Affairs, where Punisher does crowd control. But the boss, Miss Chapel, she did an overview of her own overview of Damage Control's operations, and it's explained that with them being there's a government super fund for Damage Control, and so they have to basically they kind of do the insurance of it. Everyone makes a claim, and they do it through like, okay, is this a legit claim or not? Well, and so he has to pre-screen potential claims, and if they're legitimate, they go on they get looked at. Also, Gus is given his own office. It's the bathroom. Yeah, he keeps sending everyone through, though. An old woman who claims her cat's a flurkin and ate her husband and her penthouse apartment and so forth. A guy that claims Loki tricked him into gambling away all his money on blackjack. Guy that claims that he got a symbiote that made him lazy. But the boss comes in and Miss Chapel explains that, hey, legitimate claims, and like the old woman with the cat. Every week she brings a different cat trying to claim against a flurkin, and it ate this expensive thing, and that expensive thing, or this person. So, the next claimant comes in, and apparently his family was shrunk in a recent battle between Ant-Man and a microverse-based monster. But Gus, having been told, basically a hard ass, he crushes the box with the family in it. But apparently, what happened was a big, it was all over the news. So the boss, like, hey, no, this was legit. This was a legit complaint. So Girl Labs is called in along with Scott Lang. The family is brought back to size. along with a giant microversal monster. But that microversal monster is actually an ally of Ant-Man's and protected the family from various other microversal threats. Though, yeah. Gus is let go from Consumer Affairs Department and put in a likely test out a position that will give him more fresh air. And that is where the issue ends. I have enjoyed this book. It's honestly a lot of fun. And moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got Thunderbolts, number 2. Where we left off, Luke Cage had assembled his new team of Thunderbolts, led by Hawkeye, and including Persuasion, and Power Man, and Not Cable, and you get the idea. And we start off, Clint's late for a press conference. And Luke Cage is having to cover for him. Yeah, Luke loves that, I'm sure. But, and he lets the cat out of the bag Clint lets the cat out of the bag about Secret Avengers. But they get a call. There's a creature in the Met. So they go to take care of it, but there are apparently 4 kids inside with them. Apparently, though, the kids and the creature are getting along. The creature, Ergo, knocks Power Man literally out of the building. They're able to deflect a laser blast from Not Cable. Sorry, but that America Chavez is told about what's going on and flies in and knocks Ergo on his ass. But Persuasion is mind linked with Ergo, and Ergo is able to communicate. There was a Monster Island exhibit at the Met. He wanted to see it and to see the statue to him, which there wasn't one for some reason. And so the fight is to destroy the other statues, which Ergo thanks the team for doing. Hawkeye goes to have a chat with Power Man, who's feeling like a bit of a screw up. But Clint gives him a pep talk. And Ergo is added to the team. And Monica Rambeau is also officially added too. But they do a team picture. Then later that night, Monica and Clint have a beer and talk about the team, with Monica basically saying that she's sticking around with the team to fix things when Clint screws up. Then in Central Park, a couple are jogging at night and are attacked by one of the Red Ghost super apes. And that is where the issue ends. This has been so far. This is definitely a fun T-Bolts run. Yeah, I guess I'd like a more Avengers B Squad type of Thunderbolts run, but hey. But this is still it's still fun. I'm digging it. But anyway, that is going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.